is the video I've been promising to put out, my self-rescue instructional video. This video will teach you how to do a self-rescue and get yourself back into the kayak if you do capsize. Some of the things that you will need for sure, you will need a paddle float for this. This paddle float is kind of small, but I like it because it forms actually a dry bag to be able to put my stuff in. Very often I will throw my gloves, my sunscreen, things like that into this just so it's always there. It also, on a lot of boats, will strap to the deck and form a deck bag, so it's kind of cross-purpose. It's probably the worst paddle float I've ever used, but I was still able to do this rescue every time using this size of a paddle float without too much of a problem. Second, you'll need some sort of strap or rope. I call this in the video a rescue harness. This is one that I just purchased from Amazon. It is just a length of, I think, 30 foot of 1-inch webbing. I liked it because it was yellow, so it's very visible, so if it's under the water, I can easily find it and bring it over to perform the rescue. But I'm going to be cutting this on this video, showing you how to make your own paddle harness. You will need something to get the water out. So for this video, I was using just the trusted 1-gallon jug with the bottom cut out. I went ahead and tied it on with a rope to the outfitting of the kayak. This actually surprisingly worked well, worked surprisingly well. The other piece of equipment you can use is a bilge pump. I kept leaving it in my car or leaving it in the filming boat, so I never used the bilge pump really for the video for the rescue out on the lake. But these work really, really well on getting the last bit of water out. These things are like 15 years old. They've been in my attic this whole time, so the mechanisms on the inside are kind of corroded and stuff. But you just pump the water out. I did find that the bucket worked, or the jug worked a lot better for this. Just a couple of thoughts on the rescue. First off, whenever you're getting into the boat, it's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be perfect. You'll always find your seat in the wrong place. You'll be kicking it around. These weren't meant to be ideal to do rescues in, but you still can do the rescue in them. Second, in these rescues, all of the rescues, I used no flotation at all in the boat. That means that I made it as hard as possible to get myself back into this kayak. It still was pretty quick to bail out all that water, but you'll see in these videos I'm really struggling to get the boat up and right side up and keep as little water as possible in the boat. Flotation will really help that. Now, in a video I just put out was putting in the D-rings. These D-rings they'll take you about an hour to put in, probably 6 of them, but they are very helpful for strapping stuff down. For instance, if you want to readjust your seat somewhere else, carrying a dog, carrying a child, that would give you a second spot to strap down your seat. It makes it very nice for strapping down things like dry bags. These will second as airbags. When you've got these packed full of towels or whatever you're putting in there, they will form some really nice flotation. But not only that, it will also block things from coming out, so it gives me kind of storage, wet storage, back behind the seat to where things aren't coming out or floating around the boat. But I'll also be putting some down into here for thigh straps if I want to use thigh straps for some reason. And I might put some up here just for really securing things down better. But they are very inexpensive. So let's get started with making our rescue harness. So on your rescue harness, again, this was sold in 30-foot piece. I'm going to want one to be probably 16, 17 foot long, and the other to be a little shorter. I'm going to use it for touring kayaks, but I'm just going to go ahead and find the center to where my length of strap is approximately 15 foot, and from there I'm going to come down a foot or two and go ahead and cut it there. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and burn my ends to where this doesn't fray. There we go. And then just tie this in a knot. Pretty simple stuff. And now I have a really nice rescue harness. So when my boat's upside down, I want to free up my hands to where I can set up my rescue harness and my paddle float. Now normally my rescue harness is just going to be shoved in a pocket. Sometimes you have two flotation and where you put your paddle is in the center. You can just shove your rescue harness in there. But I'm going to go ahead and set this up. But as the kayak is upside down, I want to hook my legs or grab the kayak with my legs to where I can just float on my back to accomplish this rescue. So I'll go ahead and close up my paddle float. Usually my paddle float would be in this condition here, inside the boat or up on the deck. But I slide my paddle blade in, hook this around the paddle shaft, and inflate it. From there, I'll go ahead and take my rescue harness out, put it around the other side of the shaft, and now I'm ready to roll my boat up to get it right side up. So once the boat is right side up, you're ready to place the paddle. I'll go ahead and place the paddle float on the side that I'm at, and then I've got to pull around the strap onto this side. So two ways I can do that. For one is to go around, grab it, and pull it back. The other way is just to push on the kayak, and you'll find the strap will come back to you. So when you have the strap here, you'll go ahead and go around the shaft. In touring kayaks, very often, I would wrap this around the shaft 2 or 3 times, but for this, I found just laying it behind here will enable it to slip a little bit, pressing harder on that side, so this paddle is pushing down instead of really pushing over on this side. You get the pressure actually on both sides, but here's where you put your foot, and I can already tell that this strap is too long. I would sit there, and as I'm practicing this, I want to find where this strap needs to be. So I'll start tightening up that knot until it feels good, where I'm not too far down with my foot and I'm not way up here trying to get my foot into it. So as I said before, these are never going to be perfect. Anytime you get in, you just want to make it easier and easier on yourself each time you practice this. But a couple little tips is if the paddle is sticking pretty far out on that side, you're not going to be able to put nearly as much leverage over here. So standing or laying in this position or floating in this position, I can just take it and pull this over all the way until it butts up next to the paddle blade. That way you can put a little bit more pressure out on this paddle float. So from here, while I'm in the water, I'm going to be hooking my foot. I still believe that this is too short, but it's working from this video to where I'm not way up here. But again, really important to practice this a couple times to be able to get this strap set in the proper length. So if you are in a rescue situation, you won't have to sit here and mess with your strap for 5 minutes finding that perfect spot while you're getting hit by waves. Using your foot to press, try to reach around the kayak. Reach around the kayak and press from the bottom of the boat. You can press on your paddle here, or you can press on the bottom of your boat, pushing with your foot to flip up into the kayak. So here we go with the rescue. First things first, to flip over, and this doesn't go that well or look that pretty. These things are kind of hard to flip, but once you've got it flipped over, you are going to try to get your legs pinned inside the kayak to where you can grab onto it with your legs. This will free up your hands, so you can go ahead and put your paddle float on and get it aired up. Once you've got that done, you do put your rescue harness onto the other end of the shaft, and then you're ready to roll the boat back up. Again, this is not easy. This makes it much easier if you do have some flotation in the boat. Dry bags, air bags, pretty much any flotation will help. But I am just swimming. I'm not touching bottom to do this, and I did get it righted back up. If you do this kind of sloppy, that's okay. It'll just take a little bit longer to bail out the water. But here I am at the lake doing the rescue and still got quite a bit of water out of the boat, or kept water out of the boat, as I righted it back up. I am really impressed with how well the gallon jug works at emptying out the boat. All this water in the boat only took me a couple minutes to bail it out. And you're never going to be able to get all the water out unless you use a bilge pump right here. I kind of find it a little easier to use that bilge pump when you're back into the boat, but whatever works for you. And once you've got enough water out of the boat, you'll go ahead and put your paddle shaft over the kayak, push the kayak, bringing the strap to you, and then you can wrap that around the other end of the paddle shaft, making yourself a nice little foot harness. So when you're ready, you can go ahead and put your foot into the paddle shaft, reach into the kayak to press on the bottom of the boat as you haul yourself up onto the deck. Go ahead and put a leg into the kayak, switch legs, keep your center of gravity down low, that way you won't flip. This is never pretty, the seat's always messed up as you come up, and it'll take a little bit to get everything straightened up and fixed. Here it is on the actual lake. Keeping center of gravity down low, get the legs in, and rotate yourself around and into the seat. Here you can then use your bilge pump to pump out the rest of the water, or a sponge. A sponge works fine. So now that you are back into your boat, here's where you can use your bilge pump to go ahead and get the water out. Alright, that'll splurt water out pretty good when these things are actually working right. This is extremely old and has bad valves on it. But once you get that water out, you can start concentrating on your paddle. Getting your paddle out, putting away your gear. Usually I just end up throwing my gear up into my kayak, throw my paddle float into my kayak, and just worry about that later. And I'm ready to go. Just a couple of thoughts. A lot of people will say, well, I'm just going to stay right by the edge of the lake. I'm not going to do crossings. It's very constrictive to do that. You'll feel like, I want to go out in the middle, or I want to go on the other side of the lake. But even if you're just staying by the edge, sooner or later you'll get into conditions where the wind's blowing from the closest shore, blowing out into the middle of the lake, and it'll make that condition real nice and calm since the wind won't be blowing you. But if you get out a little bit too far, you might find that that wind is pushing you to the other bank, which might be 2-3 miles away. In those instances, if you were to flip in that moment, there's no way you can swim against the wind, or very unlikely you're going to be able to swim against that wind, so you're going to have to swim all the way 2 or 3 miles to the other end of the lake. It really is good to practice this, even if you are just going to stay by the edge of the lake. Learning this rescue will make you a lot more confident in your kayak. Very often if someone flipped, it might be because they were very stiff and scared of flipping over, or trying to fight the boat to keep it from flipping, and in that case it made it more likely for them to end up upside down in the middle of the lake. So by practicing this, you'll care a little bit less. If you end up flipping, you'll probably stay a little bit more relaxed and be a lot more confident paddler. And just like most of my videos, this was filmed in virtual reality, so if you were watching it on a cell phone or a tablet and using the actual YouTube app, you should be able to pan and tilt this to look around, similar to where if you were recording this yourself. And the best way to watch it is using a virtual reality headset like the Oculus. This enables you to watch it on the YouTube VR app, and it will view just like you're sitting here with me watching me in person. And last thing, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, please like and subscribe. We've got some great videos coming up from kayak efficiency, working out with your kayak, some paddle selection, lots of great content coming up. So we'll see you soon.